The Philadelphia Eagles made 8 selections on day 3 of the 2025 NFL Draft. We're going to recap them all on today's edition of Locked On Eagles.
You are Locked On Eagles, your daily Philadelphia Eagles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We thank you so much for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. Welcome into this bonus Saturday edition of the show, episode 6 this week, because the 2025 NFL Draft has officially concluded. The Eagles made 10 selections, including 8 picks today. I'm absolutely exhausted after today. I'm spent. Howie Roseman was a busy man, as he always is on day 3 of the draft. 1 pick on day 1, drafting Jahad Campbell in the first round. 1 pick on day 2 in the second round, drafting Andrew Makuba. Today, he just went nuts. Kept trading down. It felt like he didn't like anybody enough to trade up. I would have liked him to stick and pick at a couple spots, but he wanted to collect more assets, move down the board, ended up with 10 picks. And I actually kind of do understand it. In a draft like this that was just, it's kind of whatever. I feel like it was a mid-draft class at a lot of spots. I don't think there was nearly as much depth in this class as there has been in years past, especially at certain positions. I kind of get the idea of an unpredictable class just having more swings at bat, right? Just having more chances to throw the dart at the wall and see if it sticks. And I think that was actually a good approach. For a while today, I'm like, please stop trading down. And it was more probably out of selfish reasons because I wanted to get this pod done. I wanted to, start diving into the prospects the Eagles actually had and prepare for this next week of shows. And it just felt like he just kept adding more and more picks. But I do actually like the strategy now that I've thought about it more for this class. I just thought you had so many day 3 picks in these next couple classes that I would have tried to trade up. But I think Howie probably tried. The issue is they were picking so low in each round that teams didn't want to move down the board that much. And I also think part of it was Howie Roseman just probably didn't love this draft class. And that might seem contradictory to them having 10 picks. But again, it was an unpredictable, less talented class, so you want more chances to at least get some picks right by having more picks. But at the same time, he probably didn't love this class enough to say, I'm going to trade away picks to go up and get this guy. Like he's, I want him at this spot, but if he doesn't fall, I'm not trading up for him. It sounded like that was the case with, Charles Grant yesterday in the 3rd round, or I think Deion Walker today in the 4th round. He liked those guys. They didn't fall. He didn't want to trade up though either. So I kind of understand that, not wanting to trade future draft ammunition in a stronger class when you can use those picks to move up next year. You can move those picks to maybe acquire a veteran, whether it's still this offseason or next year. The more I thought about today, what went down, I actually do understand the approach. So the Eagles traded down a lot, ended up with 10 picks in this class. We'll break them all down today. But before we get into who the Eagles did take, I want to get into a player that I thought they might take and just barely missed out on him. And it's Shedeur Sanders. It's insane to think about, but there was a very close scenario that almost played out today where Shedeur Sanders is a Philadelphia Eagle. And now Jeff McLean says the Eagles were not considering it when the Cleveland Browns traded up right in front of the Eagles to take Sanders in the 5th round. I don't know if I believe that. Ian Rappaport earlier today said that he heard rumors the Eagles would be interested in Sanders for the right price if he does continue to fall down the board. When you look at Howie Roseman's track record of drafting Jalen Hurts in the 2nd round despite having Carson Wentz on a brand new contract extension, trading for Kenny Pickett, selecting, Tanner McKee on day 3, selecting today Kyle McCord. He drafted a quarterback not very long after Sanders went off the board, so he took a quarterback. He's invested a lot in the backup quarterback position. Of course, look to Nick Foles and Kevin Cobb back in the day. I mean, he is always investing in Michael Vick. Backup quarterbacks is their thing. And because they've needed backup quarterbacks in Super Bowls and playoff runs. So I do think they were very interested in Sanders. And the Browns, their general manager, Andrew Berry, very close with Howie Roseman, worked in the Eagles front office. You're telling me it's a coincidence he traded up 1 pick in front of Howie to take Sanders? I'm sorry, I'm calling cap on Jeff McLean's report that the Eagles were not interested. I think all of that connected considering we know who Howie Roseman is. We know his feelings about the backup quarterback position. We know his past moves. We know the pick he made very soon after was a quarterback. All of that's just mere coincidence, and they weren't going to take Sanders or consider him. I don't buy it. But I will say I'm really glad it did not happen. I'm really glad that scenario did not play out and the Browns moved up in front of them to stop what I think would have been just a media circus. And would it have been, would Shedeur Sanders have been like a huge distraction in the Eagles locker room? Probably not. But for me personally, I'm just sick of the Eagles backup quarterback just being in the headlines so often over the years. And now if it's for a good reason because he won the Super Bowl for you like Nick Foles did, or he led you on another deep run in 2018, okay, that's fine. But, I'm just sick of those kind of stories. Wentz hurts in 2020, Vince Young during the Dream Team year of 2011, the backup quarterback just in the headlines for the wrong reasons. Tim Tebow back in 2015 just being a spectacle for an entire training camp process. Like, I don't want the backup in the headlines as often as Shedeur Sanders would be. The sports radio stations are not happy he wasn't taken. The Fanatic, WIP. They were going to take those headlines and run with it. If the Eagles start struggling at any point, Jalen Hurts, you don't think Deion Sanders is going to start talking? Like, I'm really glad it didn't happen. And Sanders, I don't think he was worth those distractions. Maybe a team like Cleveland that has some window of opportunity for him to be the long-term starter, I get why they would take the chance. But for the Eagles, it's like, you don't need Sanders. Like, you're going to take this on for what? It's just not worth it. So you can eventually trade him for another day 3 pick. Like, I'd rather just save the circus from coming to Philadelphia and stick with what you have. I think Tanner McKee is a better quarterback anyway than Shedeur Sanders as Jalen Hurts' backup. And Shedeur Sanders is just another non-mobile quarterback. Like, he's not a better fit than Tanner McKee as Jalen Hurts' QB2. So for all those reasons, I'm really glad they avoided it. I think if Cleveland didn't trade up, I think that would have been the pick. I really do. But let's get into the actual picks that the Eagles did make. Coming up next right here on the Locked On Eagles podcast, 8 selections from Howie Roseman on day 3. We'll get into it next right here on the Locked On Eagles podcast. Today's episode of the Locked On Eagles podcast, it is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV. Amazon Fire TV. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? That's right. Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe or sign in to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty Black Ops 6. As easily as you stream your favorite shows, it's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. Play high-quality Xbox games at a fraction of the cost of a console. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube. Guys, today's episode of Locked On Eagles is also sponsored by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs, they're here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250. That's right, $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes betting so easy for the playoffs, whether it's picking your favorite team or diving into player props, from three-pointers to steals to assists. FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. So don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. All right, we continue to recap day 3 of the 2025 NFL Draft. Let's dive into 8 draft picks that Howie Roseman made today for the Philadelphia Eagles. We'll start with their first one in the 4th round, Nebraska defensive tackle Ty Robinson. I like this move a lot. I do. I think Ty Robinson himself, the prospect, wasn't my favorite player. I really, really wanted Deion Walker, who went 2 spots ahead of the Birds. The Bills traded up. I think that means they probably thought Walker was going to be somebody the Eagles covet. Out of Kentucky, the 6'7" tackle that had 7.5 sacks a couple years ago. Like, he was my guy for today. on the interior, but I do like that they added an interior pass rusher. That is something you guys heard me so often on the show talk about. I wanted another pass rusher to rotate with Moro Ijoma next to Jalen Carter. Yes, on paper, defensive tackle seems fine. You have Jalen Carter, who's one of the best in the game. Moro Ijoma is a rising star. By the way, a big winner of this draft process. That the first tackle they took was in the 4th round. So big weekend for Moro Ijoma's confidence. And then Jordan Davis as well. You're like, oh, those are top 3 guys that are pretty good. You're fine at defensive tackle. But I wanted another pass rusher rotating through with Ijoma because with Ijoma, you still don't know with a bigger workload if he's going to be able to be the new Milton Williams. You might need strength in numbers, and I just wanted another interior rusher. Those are very important players that you like to rotate a lot of guys at that spot. Ty Robinson can be that solid role-playing pass rusher. That's, I would say, an upgrade over like a Thomas Booker. He had 7 sacks last year for Nebraska, which is really impressive for an interior pass rusher at the college level. 7 sacks is really good. Over 40 pressures as well, 42 to be exact. He's 6'5". He has a really explosive first step. He does have short arms, though. That's something that I didn't love about him. You guys know I'm a wingspan guy, especially in the trenches. He definitely does not have great length. I also don't think he moves really well laterally when it comes to like changing direction, but he's got a really good motor. His speed to power rush coming downhill is really good. 7 sacks last year. Like I said, the pass rushing is his strength. I do get the pick. Like, I like the pick itself. The prospect himself wasn't my favorite, but I like the style of player he is, and I like the role that they added with that selection. And then, after that, UCF cornerback Mac McWilliams is joining the Philadelphia Eagles secondary, a 4th-round selection as well. 5th-round pick, I should say. The Eagles traded down in the 4th round again. They just kept moving down to collect extra picks. I like Mac McWilliams. Kobe Bryant was my guy coming out of Kansas. I think he would have been my preference. Again, that's the thing about these defensive players. I like the roles that Howie Roseman filled with these prospects, or the potential roles. I just had other preferences with what prospects that I liked personally. But Mac McWilliams, he's an interesting Avonte Maddox replacement, right? 5'10", 191 pounds. He's a bit undersized for a corner, but really explosive footwork in the short areas at the line of scrimmage, like really good burst. I think he's got really good footwork, mirroring receivers in the slot on those 2-way goes. I think he can be that nice, solid slot cornerback backup to Cooper DeJean. And you needed that after losing Avonte Maddox in free agency. And you just needed cornerback depth in general. Again, Kobe Bryant would have been my guy, but I like that they got somebody that's slot, outside, versatile. He played outside mostly at UCF, but I think he projects at the next level because of his shiftiness, because of his size. I think he is more of a slot corner. I like that they brought him in. You lost Avonte Maddox, as I said. You lost Darius Slay. You lost Isaiah Rodgers in free agency. So you lost 3 cornerbacks this year. Your depth is bleeding. And yes, you still have Quinyon Mitchell, Keely Ringo, Cooper DeJean. You signed Adoree Jackson. I still believe in Eli Ricks. Like, that's 5 guys you have, but Eli Ricks is still a big-time unknown. Is Adoree Jackson shot? Like, I'm not sure. I think adding somebody, again, especially somebody that's in the slot, because none of those guys are slot corners outside of Cooper DeJean. I like adding another slot-style corner through this draft. Plus, McWilliams, like, he's smaller, but he's a very willing tackler against the run, and you need that for a slot corner. So I like Mac McWilliams. His tape against Travis Hunter and Tet McMillan is actually really good as well. I think it was a good pick. Again, I had other preferences, but the Eagles, one thing that I kept saying on Mock Draft Monday was on day 3, they need to come away with another like nickel defensive back. Now, Makuba can do that as well. He can play in the slot like he did at Texas at times, but I think the Eagles want to use Andrew Makuba more as a deep safety than they do as a nickel corner, right? Because that's Cooper DeJean's spot. This is more of a focus about adding a backup there than a replacement to Cooper DeJean. Like, I don't think DeJean is suddenly moving to the outside and Makuba and McWilliams are going to play in the slot. Like, no. I think DeJean's inside, but you wanted some depth behind him with Avonte Maddox gone. Let's see what else we got here. That's 2 picks. We still got 6 guys to talk about. The Eagles had to make sure they got a Bulldog as well, come back around in round 5. They had another inside linebacker, Smael Mondon from Georgia. Of course they get a Georgia Bulldog. So that's what? Let's see. Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, Nakobe Dean, Keely Ringo, Louis Seen, Aziz Ojulari, Smael Mondon. 8 Georgia Bulldogs are now on the Philadelphia Eagles defense. It's ridiculous how many Georgia Bulldogs are on this defense. But this was my favorite defensive pick of the day. Again, I had preferences over McWilliams and Robinson with those first two picks, but Smael Mondon is an athlete. I love that they bet on the traits of Mondon on the inside. 6'2", an 80-inch wingspan, and he is such an explosive player sideline to sideline. Like, he's a freak athlete. He tested so well this offseason at the Combine, at his pro day. He's a really good, rangy sideline to sideline linebacker that's a good coverage linebacker. Like, if you look at his tape, what does he do best? Well, it's pursue the ball. Again, laterally, his lateral movement is really good, but it's also his ability to cover tight ends, especially in man and in zone coverage, but he can play man coverage as well. Mondon's an interesting player to compete with Jeremiah Trotter Jr. for one of those top spots as a backup inside linebacker, and you never know what the future holds. Jacoby Dean, he's only on a one-year contract. Zach Bond is 28 years old, just signed an extension, but he's not going to be in Philly for, another 4 to 6 years, right? I don't think he's like a long-term piece like that. So Mondon, maybe there's an opening for him. But I kind of like doubling down. Last year you took Trotter Jr. in the 5th round. This year you take Mondon. In worst-case scenario, you needed more, I think, ammo on special teams. Like, I think you lost a lot of depth. That's why I like that the Eagles' their first 5 picks were on defense. I like that was the strategy because, and it helps for special teams, as I was alluding to, because you lost a lot of depth in free agency. You lost 7 players on defense and special teams that were key contributors on those sides of the ball, right? I mean, you lost starters and Milton Williams and Josh Sweat. You needed to replace their pass rush production. Well, you did that in a way by adding Jahad Campbell and by adding Ty Robinson. You lost Darius Slay, Avonte Maddox, Isaiah Rodgers. You help out a little bit in that department by bringing in Mac McWilliams. You lost Nakobe Dean to an injury for a little bit. Oren Burks is gone, so that was one of your primary backup linebackers that started for you in a Super Bowl win and was really good when he played down the stretch in the playoffs when Dean got injured. You lost him. I like Trotter Jr. a lot, but outside of him, you had like no inside linebacker depth. And Jahad Campbell can be that guy, but again, he's going to be a do-it-all player. He's not going to be, I think, a full-time guy on the inside or on the edge. I don't think he's going to, like, you don't use Jahad Campbell as a reason to not take an inside linebacker. So I really like Mondon. I thought he was an upside kind of pick, and that's what I like to do in round 5 when it's such an unknown. Just take a swing on traits. Like, that's what I like, and I'm glad the Eagles did that. And then this is where they started to cook. They started going offense. They took 3 offensive linemen and a quarterback down the stretch. And I was begging for them to take some interior offensive line depth. It was crazy they didn't take any linemen until end of round 5, round 6. Their first pick, I think he might be a starter this year. I think he could beat out Tyler Steen and Kenyon Green as the starting right guard. It's Drew Kendall from Boston College. Now, he was a center at Boston College, was a first-team All-ACC player last year, team captain, really good locker room guy. And he's such an Eagles center. When you just watch him, like the way he moves up the field, he runs like Cam Jurgens and Jason Kelsey. Like, he has that style. You can tell the Eagles have a type with their interior linemen, especially at center. That's Kendall, but he's 6'4", and I think he's big enough and he plays with enough power to play right guard. Again, he always played center at Boston College, but the Eagles, they announced him as a center/guard. I think he is going to be in that competition for that starting right guard job. I would not be surprised if he wins it. I really wouldn't. I think that was a steal. I think the Eagles, the 3 offensive linemen they brought in, Jeff Stoutland's going to turn at least one of them into a stud, if you ask me, or at least like a really key backup offensive line player, like a Halapuli Vaitai between, Kendall. Then you also selected, so we know about the Kyle McCord pick. Then you take Miles Hinton from Michigan, played both right tackle and left tackle with the Wolverines, 6'7", 325 pounds, a massive human being. Like, he has the traits that you want to give Jeff Stoutland on day 3 to develop. And then your 3rd offensive line pick might be one of the steals of the draft. You give Jeff Stoutland Cameron Williams from Texas with your 9th pick in the draft. He's 6'6", 334 pounds. And people are saying, I can't remember who it was, Fran Duffy, formerly at PhiladelphiaEagles.com. Now he's with the Philly Pod. He said that he could see if Cameron Williams went back to school, if he went back to Texas this year, he could have been a day 1 pick next year. Like, that's the kind of upside he has. and you got him with one of your last picks, your 9th pick on day 3 in round 6. Like between Cameron Williams, Miles Hinton, I love the size of those two combined. And you lost Fred Johnson, so you needed tackle depth badly. Between those two and then another interior depth piece and Drew Kendall, I really like the lineman the Eagles took. And Kyle McCord, it's a cool story. St. Joe's Prep, local kid, replaces Kenny Pickett as the Eagles fan. That's now one of Jalen Hurts' backups. I love those stories because it really was all of our childhood dreams to be an Eagles quarterback. And these guys are literally living it out. Like, that's so neat to me. And I think he's actually a good player. I think he's the favorite now to be QB3 over DTR. I think in camp, he's probably going to beat out DTR. I think he'll be the backup to Jalen Hurts and Tanner McKee. One final pick to get into, Virginia Tech edge, Antoine Powell-Ryland, their 10th and final pick, their 8th pick today. Unbelievable. Good explosiveness, good bend. Can compete with Patrick Johnson maybe as one of those final guys on the edge if he makes the roster. At this point, you're 10 picks in. Just take a flyer on a fast pass rusher. I like that. Overall, again, today, the defensive prospects, I had some preferences of different players I wanted them to bring in. But the offensive line players that they brought in today, those are the guys I'm very, very excited about. And we'll continue to dive into all these draft picks all week long, Monday through Friday. We got a show for you coming up. We do not stop. Even in the dog days of the offseason, draft content continues for you right here on the Locked On Eagles podcast. Thanks to everybody. Shout out to all you guys, our daily listeners, our daily viewers on YouTube, for tuning in to every damn draft podcast I've churned out, every short. I posted like 1,000 YouTube shorts, all the tweets, all the live shows, all the squad shows as well that we're kicking off on the network. You guys are the best. You make this a dream come true, and I really, really do appreciate it. It makes me want to do a Saturday show after 8 picks that the Eagles made. So I appreciate you guys. All right, that's going to do it. Thanks so much for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. As always, thanks for downloading, watching, and listening, and let's go Birds. Fly, Eagles, fly.